All right, guys, another video, more misinformation to go over to kind of quell the lies and the rage bait that is out there. But we're going to break it down with the truth and what's actually happening with the Nintendo Switch 2. So let's go ahead and jump right into it here. We're going to start off with the big news that it does seem like the Nintendo Switch 2 will actually not, I'm going to repeat, not need a day one patch in order to operate the system or play games. Now, this was posted by Necro Felipe. He had a picture of Nintendo Switch 2 games, Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Nintendo Switch 2 edition, and Mario Kart World. Somebody's picture was there, and it says this via Twitter: Nintendo Switch 2 confirmed that the console does not need a patch to run Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games or the complete Nintendo Switch 2 edition on cartridge. Day one patch is only required for Nintendo Switch 1 games and additional system features. So this is something when it actually broke out, I talked about it. I wasn't so sure, and I didn't report that you're not going to be able to use the system at all with a day one patch. I was just saying, hey, look, there's going to be a day one patch for some things, but we don't know for sure if you're not going to be able to do anything. But I said that most systems have a day one patch, whether you're importing the features or you're trying to use a feature, or most systems you're going to need the internet to do something. Especially if you are a user of the previous system, you're going to need the internet to do something. Import a profile, transfer over something, download a game that you have digitally, whatever the case is. With Nintendo Switch 1, it was simply just to use a micro SD card. You needed a patch for that. So that's what I said on there. I did not report that you cannot use Nintendo Switch 2 games and the system doesn't work at all or anything, because that was never proven. But we have plenty of situational Nintendo fans and content creators that took it upon themselves to rage and to spread that the system will not even work at all, because there was a rumor about that. It was not confirmed. But now we know, at least at this point, what it seems like, that yes, you will not need the day one patch. But of course, many people are going to need to hook up to the internet, because you're going to want to transfer over maybe some of your digital games from your profile. You're going to want to re-download some of the stuff that you want to play. You're going to want to import your profile. But yeah, there will be a day one patch. If you want to play backwards compatibility games, it will be there. You have to download that patch because it's software emulation. It's not built into the hardware, and they've been updating the compatibility since they decided to do the whole situation. Since they decided to do the Nintendo Switch 2 backwards compatibility with Switch 1 games, they've been updating and updating. So they are probably going to have future updates that give us better compatibility. They actually even said that there will be other patches that will give us better compatibility and potentially fix some issues that there are with the number of games that are not quite working completely, or there's some issues here and there with backwards compatibility. So I think that's kind of big, but not really a big thing. Most Nintendo fans did not care. Dealt with that with the Wii U. There was a day one patch for those who actually bought it. With the Nintendo 3DS, there was a day one patch. With the Nintendo Switch 1, there was a patch to use the micro SD card day one. There was always these type of things with my PS5. There is a day one patch. My PS5 Pro, there was a day one patch. If you want to put the 4K Blu-ray drive on there and attach it, it has to hook up to the internet. Also, if you want to import your profile, you're going to need to go on the internet. So you pretty much need to patch or use internet almost all the time with these systems. That's just how modern systems are, especially if you're a user of the previous system and you want to import things or import your saves or cloud saves or whatever the case was. So to me, it was just low tier kind of rage bait for the most part. And now we have a confirmation that no, you're going to be able to get your system and pop in the cartridge and play the game if you want to. And for some reason, if you don't have access to the internet, maybe somebody drives into like a light pole by your house, you know, while your team is losing in the playoffs to go to the championship game, then yeah, maybe that might happen to you. But if that doesn't happen to you, you should be good. You can use your phone, you can use other things to potentially get that, or you can even take the system, since it's portable, take the system to a coffee shop or something that has the free Wi-Fi, and you can take care of it there. But either way, there is a confirmation that there will be no day one patch to simply just play the games. But we'll see what system features, and we'll see exactly how the compatibility is. But even with the original report with this whole day one patch thing, it really only said Nintendo Switch 1 games. It said nothing about Switch 2 games, but people took that and spun it in whatever way that they wanted to spin for easy views and grift points online. So that's kind of what happened there. But once again, Let's wait and see. We got to wait for the full thing overall, but it does seem to be that way. Shout out to Necro Felipe with the beat on this one. And also shout outs to all those who are not subscribed yet to hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it if you do, because we're dropping all sorts of great Nintendo Switch 2 content, and we've got a huge launch week. Oh man, it's going to be so good. I got some special streaming for you guys and some cool giveaways to do. So let's go and jump into the next topic here, guys. And we are going to discuss the huge news that's happening right now. So that's my man Nintendo Prime. He's been killing it on his channel. And I want to talk about what he had to say recently about the displays with Walmart. Now, we covered this before. VSips, another content creator, shout outs to him as well. He talked about how his Walmart is essentially getting rid of the Xbox section or greatly toning it down to really promote and push the Nintendo Switch 2 for floor space. For those who don't know, floor space is very, very important. Like, it's very like a big thing with the retailers. They want to make sure that if something has floor space and all that, it's dedicated to something that's going to sell. And it's something that's always been like a tug of war between all the different companies, between every single person that sells stuff. Where's the floor space? Where is it at? How is it positioned? It's really important for your sales, or at least they think it is overall. But with the Nintendo Switch 2, it seems like there is a massive amount of floor space dedicated. And here's what Nintendo Prime had to say. And then I also have my own thing to add to it when it comes to Best Buy. So Nintendo Prime said, at this Walmart, Switch 2 is overtaking the PlayStation section and part of Xbox. With more coming, holy-ish, retail really thinks Switch 2 is going to be the biggest, most relevant system ever the next year. So that's something, once again, that I'm kind of seeing as well. I went to Best Buy recently to pick up some stuff to where I'm going, and I saw a huge thing that they put up for Nintendo Switch 2, and I didn't take a picture of the other side, but there's a whole other side as well that was also for Nintendo Switch 2. So it does seem like retailers are dedicating a ton of floor space for the Nintendo Switch 2. So this is not to troll, and I'm not trolling Wood here. Shout out to the homie Wood beat 'em ups. But I think that if you want to make sure that people don't get confused when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 1 and the Nintendo Switch 2, dedicating a massive amount of floor space and signs and pictures and saying, hey, here's the new thing, it's right here in this box. That's definitely one way to make sure that people are not confused between the Nintendo Switch 1 and the Nintendo Switch 2. So give it the floor space, give it the size, give it the attention, give it what it needs so people know, oh, this is the new one. This is the new thing that everyone is looking for. So I think that's going to be one way that's going to help out with a lot of the normies out there and people. For those who maybe feel that, oh man, I don't know what I'm going to be getting here. Oh, these look the same. Well, here's one way to get it done. Massive amounts of floor space, making it nice and vibrant, showing exactly, hey, here, look, this is what this is, and kind of putting the Nintendo Switch 1 away from that. Lure them in to the part where you see the big Nintendo Switch 2 logo and all the cool games and all that stuff like that, and all the nice stuff, nice shiny stuff. So I think this is one way to get it done so there isn't that confusion. Once again, no trolling or anything like that. So I think that's pretty cool. I think it's good. Switch 2 is obviously going to be a hit, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a hit. I don't think it's going to sell more than Nintendo Switch 1, but I'm only saying that because there's only been 3 systems in the history of systems ever that has ever sold as much as the Nintendo Switch 1. Well, 2 other systems, but just 3 total. Nintendo Switch 1, Nintendo DS, and the PS2. It's very difficult, and we've had gaming consoles for decades now. So it'd be a bad bet, I would say. Is it possible? Sure. If Nintendo keeps this system around for like 11 years, like with the Switch 2 Pro version, sure. Could they get there? But for right now, I'm not so sure. But it doesn't have to. Just like the PS4, the PS5, the PS3, really. PS3, PS4, PS5, none of those even got close to the PlayStation 2, but Sony's still around and they're still making money. They've still had profitable and I would say successful systems post PS2, despite never getting close to actually outselling the PlayStation 2. So the same thing can be said here. I think that 100 million plus for the Nintendo Switch 2 would be great, and I think it's going to hit right around there, maybe a bit more. But once again, we have to wait and see. A lot can change in 5, 6, 7 years. A lot can change in 2, 3 years. We got to see how the economy is. We got to see how the games come out. We got to see how the prices are affected. We got to see so many different things with this system. But it's just a base prediction. Could be right, could be wrong, but once again, we will see. I'm just going off of what's kind of happening with the retail here and how the market is shifting in terms of people wanting the ability to play their games anywhere that they want, which the Nintendo Switch 1 showed us that is very, very valuable to many people. So let's get to this next topic here, which is a bit sad, but I guess it might be good for this person as well. So The World Ends With You director has left Square Enix after nearly 3 decades. So Mr. Tatsuya Kando, who's best known for The World Ends With You, has announced that he has left Square Enix. He served this company for 29 years, almost 3 decades to one company, and he feels that the experiences were truly memorable and valuable for him, and he's talked about potentially what's next just a little bit here. So he said, quote, "This is a personal announcement, but as of May 31st, I have officially left Square Enix." Man, that is just wild overall. Over these past 3 decades, he worked on pretty cool projects, including Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, The World Ends With You, and so many other games that shaped Square Enix into what it is at this point. So that's just awesome. You know, we have to wait and see what he's going to be doing next. He feels that he's going to, quote, "continue creating fun and engaging content that brings smiles to you all." So he's not retiring. He's not done. My man is still gonna cook. It's just going to be somewhere else. And we've seen actually a string of developers leave from their long time 10 years or 20 years positions at some of these mainstay bigger companies and start their own or go to somewhere else. So I do think that it's something that as you kind of gain accustomed to one place and you've kind of ran your course there, it's time to maybe start something new after 3 decades. I mean, I've never been at a job for 3 decades. I don't ever see myself doing any job for 3 decades, overall. So you got to give some love to him for putting up with everything that he's went through. I mean, 30 years, that's a while ago, man. That's back in the mid 90s or something. Yeah, mid 90s when he started. So he's been through the thick of everything at Square Enix, from the super rise, the golden age, to the down period, to the merger, to so many different time periods in Square Enix's illustrious history overall. So shout outs to Mr. Tatsuya Kando, and I wish him luck at whatever he does next. But we now are going to move over to another big interesting topic that happened recently, where Nintendo fired back at a report about how Nintendo has somehow cut retailers in Japan a higher gross margin of Nintendo Switch 2 units being sold. So instead of like 2, it was like 5. And of course, if you sell millions upon millions, that's millions of dollars more into the pockets of the retailers. So there was a report about that, Bloomblerg's report, and Nintendo fired back quickly on that one, saying this on Twitter. On June 2nd, 2025, a news report related to the wholesale price of Nintendo Switch 2 in the Japanese market was published. We want to clarify that this report is not true. Nintendo does not disclose any information regarding business conditions with distribution and retail partners. So they pretty much said it's not true. And the fact that they fired back so quickly, because this article actually just recently went up as of the time that I'm reading all this. This was not even a couple days or so or anything. They said June 2nd, 2025. Bro, I'm recording this. It's June 1st where I'm at. So obviously they're hours ahead. So that's how fast they fired back at this, bro. It's in my future or something like that. So I thought it was wild, bro. I was looking at it, I was like, oh my goodness, man. They just went real quick on this one. But yeah, Nintendo's done this a couple times where they kind of fire back at certain reports. I know, like, I think like the Nintendo Switch OLED, they did that. I think there was one time before with the Nintendo Switch 2, they might have said something as well. But yeah, if they fire back quickly, they think it's more egregious. Like little small rumors, day one patch type of nonsense stuff that gets cleared up or whatever the case is, they'll just leave all those. They'll leave all that. But the stuff that's more serious overall, oh yeah, they'll definitely fire back at stuff like that. I think that the other thing that they did in the Nintendo Switch 2 era, it might have been the whole Genki with the display model stuff when it comes to like the Nintendo Switch 2, and now they're suing them. I think they fired back at a report about that as well, but don't quote me on it, but I think that also happened. But yeah, Nintendo's not playing around when it comes to some of these things. But at the same time, I think that retailers are obviously going to give Nintendo preferential treatment in the retail stores. Like, that's just going to happen. You saw what happened with the Nintendo Switch 1 in Japan. It became the best selling system of all time and absolutely smoked everything that Nintendo's ever done in recent history and the market overall. Like PlayStation, Xbox, yeah, they're not even close to Nintendo Switch 1 in Japan. It sold over 30 something plus million. So I don't really think that there needs to be any type of bigger profit margin or anything like that. They're already going to command the best retail space. They're already doing that with the Nintendo Switch 1. They're going to do that with the Nintendo Switch 2. So to me, I don't really think that there's too much to this story. I'm not sure what maybe Bloomblerg read or what they had. I'm not going to sit there and say that maybe there wasn't some talks, but it doesn't really seem like Nintendo would have to do something like that, considering what the Nintendo Switch 1 did on the market and how it kind of just bodied everything else. It just kind of dominated that market. Doesn't really seem to be any need to give them a higher gross profit margin for better retail showing or space. I mean, it was already going to get that anyway. But once again, we don't know all the details. We just know what Bloomblerg said and then also what Nintendo's responding with. But they are saying that it is untrue. So what do you guys think about all the different topics that we went over? Kind of an explosive, interesting Nintendo Switch 2 news. Let me know, man. Getting excited and hyped for the launch of the system this week. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 content right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.